Hey everybody, it's Tuesday.
And welcome to this edition of Hook, Line, and Striker.
I'm Josh.
And I'm Emily, and we are here tonight with SKB Fishing. Sheron, welcome to the show.
What's up? What's going on, man? What's going on? To all my people out there, they call me Lunker Man. So, Lunker Man's on right now. Just want to give you guys a shout out. Massachusetts, big love.
Oh my goodness. That is really exciting for us to be talking to somebody, it feels like so far away. So whereabout are you in Massachusetts?
I'm centrally located, central Massachusetts. I'm in Worcester, which is the second largest city in Massachusetts, and it's about 35 miles west. So I live 20 minutes of Worcester, which is in Leominster, Massachusetts.
Oh my goodness, that is awesome. And I mean, I guess stupid question. You guys get a great ice season there, right?
I don't know what great is. So regionally in New England, you can do a lot of ice fishing. I'm about 2 hours south of Maine, about an hour and a half in New York, and then you have Western Mass. And Massachusetts is an interesting type of region, right? So basically, from November to about March, one part of the state will be no ice at all. Another part of the state will have maybe 8-10 inches. And then the western part of the state could have up to a foot or so. So ice fishing can start in December and end in March, or sometimes when I'm really on the water a lot, it'll start in Western Mass and northern Massachusetts, and that's it. No ice in my area. So
that's really crazy. We hear sometimes from people in Colorado or other places that when there's like mountains involved, things can vary greatly, but you forget how frequent that can be for other locations as well. So wow, that's crazy.
Well, and I think this is our first East Coast guest, so that's kind of exciting.
Okay. Got a lot to share,
Yeah.
East Coast, the best coast. We're the best coast.
So we have a few people joining in and throwing comments out, and that is awesome. So as we are here talking, if anybody has comments, questions, additions to what we're talking about, throw those comments in. We can get that on the show. We can talk about it with you. And so we're really interested in what you guys at home are thinking as well. So I guess you're talking about East Coast being the best fishing. So I guess tell us a little bit about that.
Well, we have a wide range of fishing over here on the East Coast. You have some tidal water. You have a lot of natural lakes, gin clear water where you can see a dime in 20, 25 feet down the bottom if you have really good eyes, but you can see the shine of a dime. Smallmouth fishing, you can fish a spinnerbait in 35 feet of water and the fish will shoot right up and hit the spinnerbait because the visibility is so good. We also have a lot of different river systems. So I personally fish about 3 or 4 different rivers in the area that have a lot of stumps, a lot of lily pads, things like that. Really just slow water, not too much current, kind of stained water. So it's diverse in the area. The bodies of water are not very large, but we have a lot of diversity though.
Yeah, that's sweet.
That is really interesting. A lot of different kinds of fishing to get to know. And I guess, I'm backtracking a little bit because typically my first question is always tell me a little bit about yourself. So hold that thought because I was going to ask you a question about yourself. So, can you share a little bit before I ask myself?
Yeah, sure. Let's see. I'll bring you up when I first found that I had an affinity for water. I'm from Worcester, Mass. Like I said, live in the city, inner city. Grew up not really into outdoors at all, but for some reason, whenever it rained, I found myself hanging out where the water would flood, where all the 4 intersections would meet, and it'd be kind of low. There'd be like a little pool there, and I'd be playing around in the water. And then fast forward a little bit, I moved to Lancaster, Mass, which is a little bit more rural area outside of Worcester. And I used to hang around little rivers and looking for salamanders and frogs and lizards, anything I could find by the water. So I knew I liked water, you know what I mean? And then I moved into the area Shirley, which is next to the old Army base called Fort Devens. And it was big population over there. A lot of people coming from all over the country and stuff, internationally, globally. But there's a lot of good water in that area. And I just ride a bike with one hand and have a little fishing rod and a tackle box in my hand. And I would just hit all the bodies of water, just learning how to fish. I would just catch bluegill and stuff and just hanging around the bodies of water and just looking at things, looking at life ecosystems or whatever. And my mom would take me fishing. I didn't have a dad growing up, so my mom would take me fishing. And she showed me the bass the first time, and the thing was jumping up in the air. And I'm like, wow, what's that? What's that? And she's like, oh, that's a bass. They taste so good. I'm like, oh, really? Okay. I just like the fact he's all acting up, man. The fish is just acting up. I'm like bluegill and perch, you know what I mean? This fish is just, it knew something. It was just different. And I was so excited about that, So then I just started fishing more and more, and came across some Bassmaster magazines when I was like 17. And the things I read in there were like things I was already thinking about, and then I was trying to figure out how to get into tournament fishing ever since then.
That is actually, I love that so much because, so many people can relate to kind of the part of your story you're talking about, that bass comes out and they do really put up a great fight, and if what you're used to catching is panfish, and I mean, panfish are the love of my heart, so I get it, but there is something about a bass that, you're talking earlier about smallies, that tug on the line is just different than a panfish. And so I just think that's so cool to hear that from people.
Yeah, a diverse fishery out here, a lot of trout fishing too. We have some crappie, the size of my hand. I can palm a basketball. So we have some crappie in this size right here. I actually just caught a few last weekend with my daughter. Gonna fry those bad boys up and eat them up, A lot of bluegill. They stock a lot of trout here. It's a lot of rainbow trout and catfish. Okay. And there's also a big carp population. Some of the Connecticut River system have carp in the 20-25 pound range, really big, so you can target other different species. We have pike. I caught a muskie before. I've only seen a couple people catch a muskie. I didn't realize how majestic of the mystique of that fish when I caught it. I mean, I caught it on a crankbait and it had one hook in its mouth. So I was battling the fish trying to get it in, and it was too big for my net. So we got in a boat, and this thing was like rolling around on my deck. And I'm 6'4", and I held it by the back of its neck, and its tail was down by my calf, and it had the like tiger stripes, like a Bengal tiger, and I'm like, oh, there's a tiger muskie, and my buddy's like, we should bring it to the station, get it weighed and everything, and I'm like, this thing has messed up my boat, man. It's smelling, I'm like, hell no, so got rid of it, and then realized a day later that probably caught the state record. You know what I mean? Go figure.
Oh my goodness. Last Thursday we just talked to somebody who makes a great replica. So if you ever change your mind, let us know.
I have a picture. It's on Instagram. It's not a fishtail. I don't believe in fish stories. I got photos of every big fish I've caught, since social media's been out. You know what I mean? So
that's a really great story. You never know what's going to come up on the end of that line. That's really funny. Definitely a few comments here, people online enjoying it as well. So that's really cool. I honestly have not ever encountered muskie myself, so that's still on my to-do list, but they are really crazy fish. So I can't wait for that.
Big fish, ferocious.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess this is a crazy question. Do you actually then have a fish that's your favorite?
It's a bass, no doubt about it. Largemouth bass. Someone just asked that question on Facebook. Smallmouth, largemouth. I'd rather just dip my bait down in some thick, heavy stuff and pull that fish out. Big, fat largemouth. I'm all about them big largemouth. Pound for pound, largemouth is still the biggest and the toughest. Smallmouth, they beat their chest a lot. And you put them in a live well and they swell down. Up in Lake Area, whatever. They're fragile. Largemouth, man, it can function in inches of water, 102 degrees of water, fast current through the ice. Largemouth's more resilient, so I'm a largemouth guy, no doubt. Largemouth bass.
That's one of the things that's so cool to me about, talking to people that fish other areas, because, in my experience, I catch most of my smallmouth on the river, and I would say that they maybe are a little bit more aggressive, a little bit bulkier than the largemouth. So I love just hearing the comparison and that difference. But I'm betting that you are a better bass fisherman than I am, so that has a part of it too.
Good bet.
Oh my goodness. So tell us a little bit about what got you into tournaments.
Well, it kind of resonated to me in me when I first started reading Bassmaster magazine, and I just always wanted to go fishing, and I'm competitive anyway. And, I think around 18, 19, I'm like, I don't think I'm going to make the NBA, so I got to figure out what else I want to do. And I loved fishing. I had the passion to just compete anyway, and in college, I used to cut hair. And then I was a bartender. I was serving liquor, and I was trying to figure out what kind of finances I need to be having to pursue a fishing career. And then I got an IT. IT is a pretty good salary, kind of flexible job. Can work remotely now, So I needed to find the right kind of occupation to support tournament fishing. Because let's face it, no one's eating off their tournament earnings. You know what I mean? You got to be marketable. They don't have a 401k plan in tournament fishing, so you got to have some kind of fallback. And you also got to be able to get those sponsors because you don't want to be ponying up out of your pocket. You got to pay for gas. You got to pay for entry fees, So I've always wanted to be a tournament fisherman. It's something that I've always wanted to do. My goal, my dream is to qualify for the Bassmaster Classic. I came real close about 8-9 years ago, and this is all I think about every day, all day when I wake up. I mean, I'm pretty good at what I do, my IT job. I'm a fixing man, I'm a husband, dad, son, you know what I mean? But every day I wake up, I look at my custom bass boat outside my driveway, and I think about fishing. And I just kind of compartmentalize that so I can get everything else done in life. You know what I mean? But that's all I think about. I've always wanted to do it. I'm the real deal.
That's awesome. So on a side note, I was thinking man, your audio sounds great. So it makes a lot of sense to hear that you're in IT. That's awesome.
Good. Yeah. Got to make sure, Zoom sessions, what have you, got to talk to them and explain things to them. So we never have a problem IT related. Even my kids, they got Kindles, iPads, iPhones, Chromebooks, all my old laptops, HP, Asus, Dell, you name it. It's an IT house. Everybody is definitely cyber aware. We're all we're all in a virtual world now. You know what I mean? So
well, and that's really cool too, to hear you talk about essentially following a passion. It sounds like you did quite a few different things with your time and have found a lot of things to make it work. A lot of people out there dream of fishing for work, and it's those jobs, dare I say, almost don't exist. Maybe they do, but there's a lot that goes into it. And so to hear kind of your story and all that, that's really great.
Let's talk about that. Yeah. So the industry is I don't know, $60 billion or something. And people have to understand, it's a lot of money, right? So you got to figure out a way to carve your niche, competitive wise, we impress our peers by catching more fish than them, but sponsors, businesses, trying to generate sales, trying to, increase their bottom line. So you got to have a balance there. Yeah, you want to compete, but at the same time, you got to be a businessman. You got to be marketable, because no one just wants to shell out all their money. I mean, some people living like that, living large. Good for them. You know what I mean? I come from a whole different spectrum where I'm trying to save $1, right? You know what I mean? So if I can get 50% off a product, I can use more product, and I can take that extra 50 cents, put it towards gas or something. You know what I mean? So you can carve your way in the industry. You can be at a tackle shop. You can just talk about things. You have a podcast. You can provide reviews. The whole goal is to try to fish for free when you're fishing competitively. You should not be coming out of your pocket for as much as the average person. If you're trying to go into that level, the higher tournament level. Now, simple derbies, team events, it's fun, it's competitive, it's cool. It's your passion, your hobby. It's on the side. But when you're trying to fish during the week, when you're trying to drive out of state, you know what I mean? When you're trying to take time off for work, then you got to handle the business part, and a lot of guys, kind of shy away from that stuff, and it hampers them because at some point in time, if you got a wife, you have kids, whatever, can't be gambling with the money, right? It's discretionary income that you need. You got to have expenses set aside, right? You got to have this thing all ready so you can go out and put this money and bet on yourself, because that's what you're doing. You're betting on yourself. It's like golf. It's like poker. You pay for an entry fee. So if someone can help you with the entry fee, then you're winning. If you can get free product, you're winning. If you're doing a podcast like this on Crappy Junction, then you're winning. You're showing people who you are, and that's how you support your passion. And that's how you can get to the next level when you just don't have a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. You know what I mean? So it's all about business too, on and off the water.
Yeah, and that's some really, really cool insight to all of that. And it makes me think of one other thing that you actually didn't mention. So I don't even know if you know about this, but I'm going to bring it up. All of these high school fishing teams these days, I was not lucky enough to have one of those. And I went to a high school that had a lot of really cool, great, unique opportunities, So I cannot wait to see, the things that you're saying and people as they figure some of that out, in combination with how that's going with the high school fishing teams. I can't wait to see what's going to happen in a few years with tournaments and fishing and kind of the sport in general.
It's getting bigger, the youth. I mean, they're our future. When I do the consumer shows, missed the consumer shows. It's been a full year now since we've had consumer shows in the Massachusetts area. So I'm missing those. But the biggest takeaway is I meet a lot of kids, I mean, they're looking up at me anyway because I'm like 6'4", and they're like, oh, but then I got fishing rods in my hands. I'm pitching lures into targets and stuff like that. And they're feeling it, and you get to talk to them, take pictures with them, and what you realize is like they're on point, they're focused, and they want to fish, they want to compete. And I was just invited to be camp guide counselor at Candlewood Fishing Camp in Connecticut at Candlewood Lake, and I'm about to meet all kinds of kids, you know what I mean? And I'm looking forward to that. But if you reach them early, I learned about this with my kids, I was reading about it, if you reach them early and show them fishing, show them outdoors, they have opportunity to excel. They have opportunity to get a free education because that's out there. I mean, some of the best anglers in the world right now went through that program, like Jordan Lee, you know what I mean? He epitomizes what you can do going through that collegiate system, so the opportunity is there. It's not as strong here in the Northeast, but it's coming, and hopefully I can be a part of that too, man. And I know it's strong in New York. I know it's strong in Connecticut. Mass is getting there. New Hampshire is pretty good. I don't know about Vermont and Maine, but if we can collectively do it in New England and get some more schools involved, I mean, it's pretty big. And again, it's a $60 billion industry, right? There's all kinds of money to be made, right? So yeah, it's booming. Hopefully to be involved myself as more and more time goes around.
Well, and hopefully as, people continue to talk about it, places like what you mentioned and even far beyond, hopefully they will continue to catch on. And, I cannot wait for that.
Well, and that's something we talk a lot about is just persistence.
Mm-hmm.
We're not necessarily a huge show, and, you may not have got to your Bassmasters Classic yet, but when you just keep doing it, you just have to focus, like you said, and showing those kids that focus early on. Mm-hmm. And just kind of just doing your thing. I think that's really cool that you're sharing that with everybody.
Yeah, man, I'm all about each one, teach one. My wife always tells me that, you got to spread it. Yeah, I'm going to share love. I'm going to show someone how to catch a fish. I'm going to share what I do. Not everything I do, because it's still a mindset. You still got to have the right type of mentality. You can't go out there on the boat and be getting mad every 2 seconds. If you're like that, it's going to be tough fishing, right? You're going to be mad all the time. But if you're laid back, you have a mild temperament, open-minded to things, fish with a lot of different people, you can succeed. You know what I mean? You always got to be uncomfortable. I wasn't sure the type of questions you're going to ask me. This is my second interview like this. I did one for it's Bro Time, YWSOP, podcast, this is my second time, but it's fun. You get to talk about things and you get to talk about fishing. And it's like being at the consumer show, because believe it or not, at the consumer shows, you do this all day long, except for no one is really capturing the moment. No one's recording it, but you get to talk about fishing and just share it and spread it. And I meet so many people. I don't like to fly, I've only flown a couple of times. I finally flew to California for a networking class, IT stuff. But I drive anywhere, I'll drive anywhere. I'm going to drive down to Texas to get my next truck. I drove to Ohio to get my truck. I drove to Arkansas to get my Legend boat. I got a custom boat in its 10th year. So fishing has brought me all around. I've been as far south as Florida, South Carolina. I've been Alabama a couple of times. I've been on Sandusky, Ohio, out in you guys' way. I haven't fished on the Midwest, west part of the coast yet, but I'm bound to get there. I figure Texas is next. But fishing can really bring you around a lot of people, a lot of different places, and get you to, learn a lot more about yourself and the world around you, so. It's all positive.
So one of the places you didn't mention is good old Wisconsin. So when you're ready to hit us up, you let Josh know.
Haven't got there yet. You know what I mean? Michigan first. Michigan first.
So fair enough.
Okay.
We do actually also have a comment from John. So can't wait till James River. So I assume that's a tournament coming up.
Yeah. So the goal, like I said, is to qualify the Bassmaster Classic, also the Elite Series. So I've been on about a 6-year hiatus since I fished the Bassmaster Opens and stuff. I had to fall back, build my brand up, get my IT skills up, get a better job, make some more money, and get settled and get things right. Not everything is right. Jumping back into the party. So the first event is at the James River. It's in the middle of May. I'll be rooming with John, JCX Fishing. That's who that is right there. and a couple other guys, Justin Salisbury and two other dudes I'll be meeting down there. I'm not gonna name everybody, but it's gonna be a big party. When you go to these opens, it's almost like going to the Bassmaster Classic because you have a lot of legends there, you have a lot of new people there, and you have a lot of people that you read about and saw, and we're all ready to bang it out and try to get these fish. So that's what's coming up is the Bassmaster Open in May.
That's awesome. Well, and it sounds like there's a few people here watching from James River. Someone's calling it their backyard, so that's really awesome.
Okay, holler at me. Let me know. I'm coming down to ride out. Let's go have some fun. Last time I was down there, it was super hot. I was there in August, and man, it was hot. It was hot. Looking forward to going down there in May. I could wear some shorts and maybe a hoodie in the evening or something. So looking forward to that.
Awesome. Yeah, that's for sure. I'm also liking, people are excited to hear that you're back to fishing. Brown is back, hammer time. So Jeff is excited to see that. I'm sure a few others here. So.
Okay. Can I talk about something else real quick?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's talk about some hair jigs real quick, right? So I brought a couple of hair jigs with me. I'm a hair jig aficionado. When I started doing seminars at the consumer shows, I do a lot of cold water fishing. Once I realized I can drive 100 miles southeast and find open water down towards Cape Cod, because their climate down there is influenced by the ocean. So they have a real short ice season. It's like minimal to none. You can basically find open water almost all year. Maybe a week or two you won't have any, but then you have open water. So I use a lot of hair jigs because I'm fishing. And when you fish during the cold water, right? Let me back up a little bit. When you fish during the cold water, the water temperature is about 36 to like 42 for a long time. Right around November, I fell in the water. This is how I know this. November 18th, I fell in the water like 20 years ago, and the water temperature is 45 degrees. So I know in the middle of November, the water is always going to be mid 40s, right? And then in December is when ice kicks in. That's usually like around 36, 34 degrees, and the water will just freeze. But water is its densest at 36 degrees, right? So therefore, it's once that water reaches that temperature level, it's kind of going to stay there. If you have a sunny day, like a really sunny day, or kind of a down towards the Cape in the backwater area, like where like a cove or something like that, the water temperature get up to like 42 degrees. So it stays in that range from November, December, January, February, even in March. Some places right now, like in New Hampshire, the water's like 42 degrees, ice just left. So you can extend your season a lot longer in this time of year than you can in the spring, in the summer, and the fall, because the fish are completely changing and the water temperature is just rising, and then it falls. So in the cold water, I use a lot of hair jigs, right? And there's been conceptions that you use a hair jig and not use any type of trailer, and that's nonsense, right? Because it's still a jig, right? It's still a jig, You're going to put something on there and you're going to jig it, right? So if you want to imitate a minnow, right, then you don't have to put any kind of trailer on this jig. Just when the water hits, it's kind of get a little streamlined like that. And then it's going to kind of imitate like a minnow because it's going to, fluctuate right here. If you want to slow your drop speed, then you kind of want to add a little piece of plastic here. And that's why you always need some kind of trailer, right? Because the trailer is not just to enhance the overall profile of the jig. It's actually also meant to slow your drop speed. So you take a piece of plastic like this, and slide it on the shank. And this is how I start my hair jig fishing as soon as the ice melts, or if I know ice is going to be there within a couple of days. So now I just have this piece of plastic on here, and it makes the hair just puff out. But what happens is you have this slow fall, and that's what a hair jig does. It gives you this slow fall. So it's not that it's more undulating, moving in the water. It's the fact that in this time of year when the water temperature is like 36, 42, 44 degrees, the fish are not moving around like that. The bass aren't. Pickerel are, because it's a cold water fish, right? Pike are, trout are, perch are about to spawn, that's it. The bass is not like that. It's like this. He's either on the bottom like this, or he's just kind of suspended like this. And because people catch fish throughout the ice fishing season, they're jigging. They're not casting. They're just going up and down, right? So the hair jig, the whole principle behind hair jig is the fact that you have this slow drop speed, and you can affect that drop speed by using different kinds of trailers. Now, this one right here has a brush guard on it, right? So this is what I use with wood. It's bigger, it's bulkier, you know. This is what I use for basically almost exclusively largemouth because I'm fishing it in the cover, but I still want that slow fall, you know. So I'll use like a radfish floppy crown there, and I'll slide that on there, and I have this nice big profile. But I'm not swimming it where these claws are moving it. It's not doing it. It's just, again, it's just a slow fall. And I'm going to say that until I'm blue in the face, you know. And this jig right here is a fox here. Same type of concept. If you just look at this, how it just sticks out, right? So just look at these. These are all different hair jigs, right? They all stick out, but as you can see the density, you can see how this one sticks out a lot more, the way the fox hair is, you know, that alone is going to have more water displacement. So again, it's just going to fall slowly. So when you're using hair jigs, you know, doesn't matter the type of hair jig as long as you're using it for the right application, right? So smallmouth, 1/8 ounce, 1/4 ounce, you know, black marabou, typical smallmouth stuff. You guys probably do that in Wisconsin too. Then over here I have, you know, fox hair, which is something I just been kind of experimenting with. It's pretty good, you know, it kind of stays dry in the water. There's this big controversial comment I had on Facebook where someone said my hair jig was dry, you know, just because it looked like this after it came out the water. But I was talking for like 45 seconds and it was like 36 degrees out, you know what I mean? So what little water was on here kind of dried up pretty quickly, you know what I mean? And then I just won a tournament, a little small tournament using this kind of jig right here because I was fishing in 4 to 5 feet of water. The water temperature was like 48 degrees, but there was a lot of wood around, you know? So I'm like, all right, I still want the slow fall, but I don't want to get caught up, you know, which is why I use this hair jig with a brush guard. But that's kind of hair jigs in a wrap. I just wanted to share that with you. It's one of the best cold water tactics you can use in the summertime, you know, up in Lake Thousand Islands. Guys use hair jigs like this without this trailer, but they're swimming it, they're gliding it, which is a whole different ball game, you know, gliding a jig and constantly lifting the jig up so it falls back and forth, up and down, whole different tactic altogether. So for guys out in your area where the ice is starting to melt, tactics I just talked about will produce as soon as the ice melts, you know. So just wanted to share that about hair jigs, you know what I mean?
Okay, no, I'm loving this. And to be honest, I was a little bit nervous. I did not want to interrupt you because I love the whole line of what you were saying. But I have a whole bunch of things from that to talk about. So first of all, do you tie those yourself?
I haven't in a while. I haven't tied hair jigs in it's been about 10 years since I tied hair jigs, but I got books downstairs. I got vices downstairs. I got all types of hair. So don't sleep on me. I got a lot of hair. I don't tie them anymore. You know, I just buy them from other people throughout like the whole country. I got a buddy in Connecticut I'm going to buy some jigs from. I bought some from someone in Kentucky, Massachusetts. I shop the country for them now.
Yeah, well, and we did have some people kind of noticing Marabou, Bucktail, you know, all of the different kinds of fibers that are being used in those different jigs. And, you know, like you're saying, that all does have a different effect in how the bait itself does move in the water.
It does.
One of the first that you picked up was, I believe, your black marabou. Yep. And the thing that I noticed about it is the feathers on it seemed a smidge shorter than what's in my tackle box. But I like the presentation that I think that looks like. So crazy question. You didn't like trim that at all, or that is how that came?
No, this is how this one is, you know, and you just want it to be out. Like, again, I'm not trying to imitate a minnow per se, because I'm not really gliding it. So the more hair you have, the more likely it's going to like stream, you know, back like that. You know what I mean? Like those like preacher style jigs that they use down on the Kentucky lakes and stuff like that. You want a long streamer, but that's not what I'm trying to do. I'm always on the bottom. So I'm more likely trying to emulate a crayfish, and I'll use a little small crayfish on here, you know. But again, soon as the ice melts, you know, the water's really cold, those fish are down there. Less is more. And I grew up on in fishermen. You know, I got all their books downstairs, you know, smallmouth, largemouth, you name it. Like, I know about those boys. The hair jigs I used to make, I don't know if you remember this, but they had, I can't recall the artist they had that was doing their covers, but at one point in time, they were doing some like drawing type covers on there. And they were showing panfish, you know. Each time they came with a different panfish, I'd make a hair jig right to that color combination, and I'd go out and use it. You know what I mean? So it's a little tip for y'all folks right there. You go find those magazines by In Fisherman, you make a hair jig like that, and they do produce, you know. So that's kind of what I did initially, but studied those guys, you know, and in the coldest times, you know, they use leech, or they'd put like a piece of a night crawler right on the shank, you know. Now it's not a tournament tactic. You can't use it for tournament fishing. But when you're first going out there for ice out, you're just going out there to try to catch fish. You know, you've been had cabin fever all year. And a lot of people struggle, you know, just take a little crawler and put it on the shank. You know, it works really good for smallmouth, and start that way. What it does is it builds confidence, because all you're doing is kind of creating a little scent trail. It's not like that little piece of worm on there is going to be doing anything. It's just kind of, you know, when the fish bites, it's going to hold on a little bit longer. And then once that water gets in the 40s, you know, you can stop playing with trailers altogether. And once it's 45, it's game on. You can really play with trailers a lot, you know. So, but I learned this from the end fishermen. You can look this stuff up right now. It's not science, you know, it's not rocket science, but back then they kind of used a lot of just bucktail initially, you know, and now you have all different types of fibers. You know, I use craft hair too, you know, like to punish your hair jigs. You know, I don't undiscriminate. I don't care. I'm going to use different ones, just that it's going to be a specific application, though. I'm not just going to pick something up and just throw it out there, you know, so just want to add that in there.
Well, and that's a perfect segue to this question from Patrick. So does the Marabou slow the fall versus the bucktail? So I guess which is a slower fall?
Well, it's not so much, well, the fall, it's how it falls, right? So the bucktail kind of doesn't stream as much like this, right? Where the marabou, you know, or the fox here, it stays out, right? So it's almost like that crayfish position, you know, it's just out, you know. So as it goes up, it flares out like that. And so the fall rate, I can't say which is better, because I'm playing with fluorocarbon line. You know, I'm using 6, 8 to this, 10 if I'm using it around rocks. This guy right here, because it's non-lead, I use light line so I can feel it. This is lead free, and that's just we can't use lead, so this one's really lead free right here, you know. So I'll use like 6-pound line, you know. This guy right here, you know, which is heavier, I'm going to use 14-pound, 15-pound test with a really big trailer, you know, where I can get away with it. So you kind of affect that fall rate by the type of trailer you're putting on there, and then you just want to see how it looks in the water as you're moving up and down, you know. And that's how I discern the differences right there. If you have more than one type, you kind of see it a lot easier, but you don't want to lock into one particular type of hair jig at all. I mean, it's not good to do that. You know, I got so many different types. I'm just going to pull it out based off of, you know, what I think I should use at the time, you know. And I got some more coming too. I ordered some more. I'm going to go up north and use some more, extend my season out. So.
The other thing that I noticed, going back to your black marabou also, is I got to laugh because the plastic that you put on there is like a grub or something like that. But I probably, like many fishermen, get so caught up in thinking about the action of the tail and bug versus minnow that people forget to use those grub type baits. And so often when you do have a bait and you lose the tail on it, use those as grub baits. Like I thought that was so cool that you put that on there like that.
So this is a drop shot bait, it's like a fork-tailed minnow or something, right? You know, and I use this 3 different ways, right? So like I showed you, I would just bite this off and put it right on the shank, you know, or I'll make it kind of like a Ned rig, you know, and where it's going to have a little bit of action. See this movement, and I'll put half this on the shank. So it still has a little bit of action, but not much. And then if I want to glide it, I can use the back part with this fork tail. But this fork tail is different than this right here, and it makes a difference, you know. So this is when I'm kind of down in, and I know that they like a certain kind of trailer. But you can use any kind of plastic, you know, what have you, you know, spider grove trailers too, you know. You have options. The key thing is you want to try to match the hatch, you know. So if you got like alewives or heron, and you know, blue black with a fork tail would probably work as a good hair jig, you know. But if you're irritating crawfish, you're on rocks, then using a crawfish type of trailer, you know what I mean. If you're literally just trying to drop over fish, you know, like kind of vertical fishing, then you just want this thing on your shank right there, just so when you go down, it's gonna go down slower, you know. And that's more like, you know, type video game fishing, but you're still using the hair jig. And those are all, you know, 3 different applications that you can use it for just by adjusting the trailer.
Well, and the other thing that's so great about that is so often we hear, to use something that isn't what the fish are seeing constantly. And so, some of the things that you're talking about are things that other people aren't doing. And so that in itself is really, really new for the fish.
Yep.
But the other thing that I absolutely love about this, and I don't mean to overgeneralize because you can never do that, but I think that, marabous, bucktails, some of these really have a place, but I think that they, like many tackle, have been a trend. And I think that in many ways the trend had moved on, but the fish still like that and they still eat that, and so that's what's so cool. Like a lot of people, think about, marabous, like nobody uses that anymore, but it's like, maybe that's the exact reason to use something like that because it has that great action. It has that, slow fall rate, or maybe you can control that depending on, some of my marabous have a lead jig on it, sometimes you need that. But a bait that's like super versatile, and I love how you're putting different things on it. So that's really cool.
Yeah, you want to be versatile. I can't help but imagine this all the time, but I really feel we're going to be an elite series, and it's going to be some type of tournament in like late January, early February, early March. It's going to be cold. It's going to be raw out, and I'm going to bring the pain with a hair jig. I'm going to do what I do. But you want those kind of conditions, right? You can have these nice warm days, like spring's coming in nice. We got some nice warm days, but then you have that front come through, and it's cold and it's raw, and it shocks the fish. That's where these type of baits shine again, even though you can catch it with a chatterbait, a spinnerbait, a jerkbait right now, but because they just got a shock to their system with a cold front that changes their mood, kind of neutral to negative, and that's where that hair jig shines again. That's the difference. So make note, folks, make note. It works.
Yeah. Well, and then, we talked a lot about this cold water fishing. So when summer hits, do you do the same thing?
No, I switch it up then. I haven't really tried. I got away from it because now I want that undulating action. I want my skirt to be a lot more busier. I want a faster drop speed. The only time I'm thinking about a slower drop speed is when I'm fishing around docks, because the whole space underneath the dock is the strike zone. You know what I mean? But when you're in thick cover, thick wood, you're trying to get down beneath that canopy. So I don't really mess around with the hair jigs at that time. I kind of just put them on the shelf. They don't come back out till around October to usually first week of May is I'm fishing in Maine, and the water temperature up there will be just 50 degrees. But the water temperature here in Mass will be 65. There'll be fish on beds. So I can extend my hair jig season by going up north, but then by middle of May, the water's 50, 55. Guys will start giving me thumpings with all types of different baits, and then I know, all right, I got to put those away, because now I'm forcing the issue. So no, not really in the summertime at all.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Gotta switch it up. You know what I mean? Gotta switch it up.
Yeah, that's for sure. Well, and so for fishing in that cold weather situation, I have to ask about your striker gear. Do you then go with winter gear or do you do rain gear?
A little bit of mix. I'm doing ice gear, actually. I'm wearing the ice gear, and I'm not ice fishing. I do not ice fish. I play Madden, hang out with my daughter, but I don't ice fish, But I'll tell you this. I like to be warm on the water. I do not want to be cold. I don't want cold fingers. I don't want a cold neck. I don't want cold toes. I don't want any part of that at all. I'm not trying to man up, right? That's just corny to me, man up, because what happens is you lose that fish. You don't feel that bite. I don't care what you say. If you have cold hands, it's going to affect your hook set. It's going to affect your feel. It's going to affect your ability to lift that fish up. It's like falling in water and you're the best athlete. When the chill at your muscles, you get a shock. So you feel like you're not cold, and then you got to go to action to battle a fish, and you're all thumbs because you're cold. Since I've got this sponsorship with Striker, and I wore a lot of gear, I couldn't bash anybody, but I wore Gill, Sims, Bass Pro Shops, Gore-Tex, I wear it all. I wear as much as I can, and there's a lot of good stuff out there. What I noticed with the Striker stuff is fit wise. I have broad shoulders. I got long arms, but it fits me well. And I'm like, there's no way they just made this clothing just for me. It's designed for your body, your large girth, wide shoulders, doesn't matter. It fits right, and it's tight in the right places. So since I've been wearing the Striker gear, I'm like never cold, and I fish a lot more in more extreme conditions longer, and I have results. The stealth glove, I mean, I have all kinds of gloves. You know, I'll just hook up my buddies and give them to them. Like, here's some gloves for you because you could use some. But it's hard to get one universal pair of gloves. I don't care what you say. It's really hard to do that. Even the stealth glove is not a cure-all, but it's the best. I can tie a Palomar knot with that, and I can tie a trilene knot with it. I haven't tried to do a uni knot. I don't think I'm going to, double uni knot. But the fact that I can do 2 knots with those gloves in my hands with treble hooks is really, really good. This last week I was out in the rain. I was in cold rain, and I can squeeze my hand like this, make a fist, and the water would drip out. But that material kept my hands warm. Even though they were wet, they were still warm, right? And that's key right there, because most gloves, they lose the efficacy if they get really, really wet, So this glove is good as just a regular glove. I wore them when I was using my snowblower, I took my daughter's sledding, I wore them. But fishing, using the jerk bait, playing with treble hooks, taking hooks out of a fish's mouth, show me some gloves that you can do that and tie a knot and get wet and your hands don't get cold, and I'll check those gloves out. I haven't seen them in the country. I haven't seen them at all. The stealth glove, it's the best glove, hands down. If you look at all my fishing, I basically had like on a puffer jacket, I had on the face shield, I had on the base layers, and I had those gloves since like November. I haven't stopped. They're that comfortable. They work that well. So overall, the striker gear is really comfortable. It fits good. It's durable because I'm fishing all the goddamn time, and I wash my clothes all the time, and they're lasting. It's not shrinking, it's not getting stretched out. You know what I mean? Not even tearing, you know what I mean? So I have the Evolve rain suit, which I wore over the summertime, and then in the early fall, in these kind of warm days with cool nights, I just wore them as like a wind protector. Yeah. Then I have the Denali insulated rain jacket. I have the climate bibs. I mean, those things are no joke at all. I just wear like long johns with them things, and I'm good. I go out and test this stuff. I go out in the shittiest day. Literally, I'm gonna go out in that kind of day because I have it to myself, and I'm like, I want to know how this stuff really performs before I have money on the line. Because I've lost fish, with the wrong gear. I've gotten uncomfortable with the wrong gear. So since I've been wearing that stuff, I wear no toe warmers. I mean, I have some Merrell thermal midriff boots, really, really good boot. I'm a size 15, so it's hard to find a right? So the Merrells, if you got big feet, man, go find those Merrells. I'm not sponsored by them, but they got a shoe for everybody, But the base layers, the bibs, everything, because I wear that stuff, I don't wear any body patches anymore. No heat, no hand warmers, no toe warmers, no neck warmers, I don't wear any of that. I do keep a heater in my boat, for extreme conditions, because I have one finger that I'm not going to hold it up because you'll think I'm flicking you off, but that finger always gets cold. I don't know why. It always gets cold, so I keep a heater for that one finger. You know what I mean? Other than that gear is second to none. I'm going to buy more stuff for that. I love it. I hook my buddies up with it over the Christmas time. You know what I mean? So got, my daughter or something, my stepdaughter, and my wife got them a hoodie too, my son. So the gear is second to none, man. Striker gear is legit. And they got the S, and it's red. You know what I mean? Sheron. Red's my favorite color. You know what I mean? It's like it was a match made in heaven.
That's awesome. Oh my gosh. And with that too, we are actually all here wearing variations of gear that are great for summer as well. Mm-hmm. So, we're talking about these extreme conditions because that's really sometimes the make it or break it moment. But, even sometimes just the sun itself can be an extreme condition. So, you're joking about, your hat or, whatever being, but that is the gear that makes you the sportsman that it is. So, I am also looking forward to the heat coming up.
Okay. Just want to give a quick shout out to Radfish Lures. We sent my daughter some pink Z slugs. We got a new 6-inch size Z slug, and I use the floppy craw, which I use on my hair jig, is made by Radfish, and my line of choice is vicious fluorocarbon, no doubt about it. Just want to let you guys know, vicious guys, so got to get vicious on the water.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So for people who, maybe are targeting bass coming up here, any last second tips? I mean, you already gave us a lot today.
So right now, man, this time of year I keep 3 lures, for the cold water. I keep a blade bait, it's always reaction. The fish eat at small windows, they don't have any spawning business going on. They don't got to defend anything. So the best type of bite to attack during the cold water, is always reaction, so I'll keep a blade bait rigged up, and because fish tend to suspend a lot, once that ice melts, that water goes down and those fish feel that denser water and they kind of rise up a little bit because they know the sun is penetrating more, the sun's higher in the sky. So you want to have some type of horizontal bait, which is why you have a jerk bait, and then, the jig's still the best lure in the world, so you should always have some type of bottom bouncing type of technique going on that you can slow and pause with it. And that's why I have a jig. So a blade bait, a jerk bait, and hair jig, is what you should have, until that water is consistently up in the 52 to 55 degree range, because then they start swimming around. You know what I mean? They're really moving around, and you can use a lot more different presentations, so everything works all the time in bass fishing, no doubt about it. But you want to increase your catch, have those 3 baits rigged up, figure out which one is going to work for you, and use that one all day with variations. You got to commit. This time of year, the fish don't bite a lot, so you're going to have less productive days than productive days. But if you keep going at it, you're going to get better at it, and also work on your patience. So plus you get the fish. You know what I mean? But those 3 baits: blade, hair jig, and jerk bait. Awesome. Those are the key.
That's awesome. And John is saying, by the way, that he's going to trade cookies for some hair jigs. So apparently,
chocolate chip, bro. You don't have chocolate chip, and I don't know what I'm going to give you. Give you advice. That'll be it.
And then if you could remind us, for the people at home who want to continue to follow you, your tournaments, all of it, how do they do that?
Okay, you can look up the hashtag SKB Fishing. You can type up SKB Fishing and you'll find me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. That's how you'll find me. I'll be fishing the Bassmaster Opens. I like to have fun. I like to catch the moment. I'm a big vlogger of myself. I like to capture the memories. I like to capture memories. I like to show my kids what I did 3, 4, 5 years ago. I like to see different people I fished with 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago. So I'm always recording something. But SKB Fishing, all you gotta do is punt that in Google, Instagram, social media, it doesn't matter. You'll find me. I'm out there. I'm easy to find. Let's do this. Let's go catch some fish. I'll holler at your boy.
That's awesome. Well, and I know that I'm going to follow along because I cannot wait to see how your season goes. And I will be cheering for you for sure.
All right. Crappy Junction. Get a little follow too. Thank you. Thank you for the shout out. Awesome. Thank you for the opportunity. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Well, and thank you for being here. Yeah. And also thank you to the people at home, who took their time to be with us as well.
Yep.
We'll be here again next week. And otherwise, great episode of Hook, Line, and Striker.
You got a fan for life right here. All right.